So to quickly introduce our topic, the Harvey Mudd College Clinic program pioneered collaboration between industry and education and has been a cornerstone of the curriculum for more than 60 years. As capstone of the curriculum, the clinic program engages students in solving real-world technical problems for corporate, government, and nonprofit clients. I'll now hand it over to my colleagues, Colleen and Stephen, to introduce themselves and talk about clinic more. Take it away.
I'll go first. I'm Colleen Cox. I'm Assistant Vice President for Sponsored Research and Projects. And that means that the bulk of my time actually is spent working with Stephen and the other clinic directors to help build the clinic program each year. My role is essentially business development. To do that, we often start with alumni and parents because they know Harvey Mudd and they understand the clinic experience and the importance of clinic to the students. So I always enjoy this opportunity to connect with parents. And if you, at the end of this, have questions about whether your organization would be a good fit for clinic, feel free to email me directly. I'm on the website, and I'm guessing one of us will drop my email into the chat. So I will now turn it over to Stephen, who will introduce himself.
Hey everyone, I'm Stephen Santana, also the class of 2006 with Erin, and I'm the engineering clinic director. And in this role, as Colleen mentioned, I work closely with her to find really good, meaningful clinic projects for our students, give them good educational opportunities, and set up a program that really gives students all the tools they need to kind of take the final step as they go on to their lives after their experience at Mudd. So with that, I will go ahead and bring up some slides. So we're just going to run through some core information about the clinic program, and then we'll take some questions when we're all wrapped up. So first off, what is clinic? As we kind of mentioned in the introduction, as Erin said, it's a collaboration between industry and Harvey Mudd. Really, when the program started in 1963, it was really focused on those industry connections. Since its inception, that has been opened up quite a bit to focus on collaborations with national labs, nonprofits, non-governmental organizations, and a whole host of outside of Harvey Mudd partners, including academic partners. And so the goal is to provide a good range of experiences for students to practice their discipline, engineering, physics, computer science, and math outside of Harvey Mudd with external partners. To do that, we focus on soliciting real-world problems from these different sponsors. It's not that they're self-contained problems or toy problems meant for a class or just for students to waste their time on because the folks want to feel good about having partners, but rather they're real problems that the clients need solved, whether that is development of a software platform, an engineered solution, a physical prototype, a data set. It really depends wildly on the sector and the focus of the work for that year. In terms of the teams that students work on, engineering and computer science majors must participate in engineering clinic as their capstone projects, so that thing that wraps up their academic program. Math and physics majors get to choose into the program if they'd like. And then lastly, it's a good way to explore new directions for those sponsors. So it's kind of those problems that industry has been waiting on, problems that research groups have been kind of not able to address. And so they're able to assign a clinic team to be able to solve those problems for them. So as I alluded to in my prior description, it is required for computer science majors, specifically seniors. In engineering, students do 3 semesters of clinic, so 1 full year during their last year of the program, and either their fall or spring semester during their junior year. The reason for that is the real big focus on professional practice in engineering, really developing them to be able to apply their general engineering skills to solving problems. In mathematics, again, it's seniors who are not participating in thesis, and similarly for the other science majors. And then I'll hand it over to Colleen to talk about the recruiting cycle and how we interface with different sponsors.
Thank you. This is an outline of how it works. As it says, it's 4 or 5 students per team. The IP that may result from the projects all belongs to the sponsors. That sometimes includes patents. That's the exception rather than the rule. More often it includes a prototype. Sometimes it's a process, a manufacturing improvement. Sometimes it's often on the CS side, it's code improvement, or some other kind of data related outcome. The NDAs are routine. Every student signs an NDA. we also will work with you to sign your own organization's NDA. Ours is pretty straightforward and comprehensive, but we can work with a sponsor organization. The fee for clinic for next year is $60,000. That includes about $10,000 to $12,000 in expenses, a site visit or two, equipment, supplies, subscriptions, things like that. A faculty advisor works with the team, and that would be a faculty advisor, usually from their department, and is a coach and a mentor, is not the technical expert, but rather working on sort of the professional skills that are one of the really important outcomes of clinic for students. And the September, it's the full academic year. Stephen mentioned that. Oh, go ahead. Oh, I was going to talk about the assignment, but you're going to talk about that later. So 10 hours per week, usually students spend on it. The benefit sponsors report so 95% of sponsors report their projects were a success, and the benefits include, as I mentioned, patents. The financial benefit that in the past few years sponsors have estimated is anywhere from $50,000 to $1.5 million, with the $1.5 million being certainly the outlier, but an exciting outcome nonetheless. Sponsors also use Clinic as a recruiting strategy, not so much to recruit members of their team, but to just raise visibility of their company and the kind of work they do among the students. Another thing companies do that I think is kind of interesting is if they have a young emerging manager that they would like to cultivate some leadership experience, they can use Clinic as a way, sort of a low commitment way to give that person some management experience for a team. Specifically, pre-product R&D is probably the most common outcome. Deliverables for internal customers, so things to make their process better, to use for training, that's common. Making an incremental improvement on an existing project is also common. And for some teams, the outcome is a little more academic. They might publish papers or attend conferences. And then I mentioned patents, which again is a little bit of an outlier, but really fun when it happens. What we ask from sponsors is a project statement in the beginning of the program. This project statement is what students will read to choose projects. So they will get the whole slate of project statements for each one, and they will read the projects and then rank choice them based on what they've read. We ask the liaison to spend 1 to 2 hours per week with the team. That typically is an hour for a meeting and another hour for answering email, text, Slack messages, things like that. We have a standard business agreement. I mentioned the fee. And then at the end of the year, we always ask for feedback, which is why we know what the value sponsors place on the projects can be.
Nice. Thanks so much, Colleen.
Thank you.
So Colleen talked a lot about what the experience is for folks who might end up sponsoring projects, and that ends up being a lot of alums over different time points in MUD's history, a lot of parents of alumni, aunts, uncles, cousins, colleagues, everyone who has, 0 to 1 degree separation usually. And the reason why that's really helpful is because in the same way that the faculty member really is an advisor and mentor in the day-to-day, many of our liaisons, the folks who interface with students directly from the organization sponsoring the projects, care deeply about mentoring the students and edifying them as professionals before they step out into the world. And so having some understanding of MUD, its culture, what Clinic is trying to do, and really the amazing aptitude, abilities, skills, and creativity of these students is a good connection for that personal connection through Clinic. So as has been mentioned in different ways, to get students on Clinic teams late in the summer, so this is in mid-early August, students review those project descriptions and rank their preferences. They Oftentimes we'll rank them, top to bottom, favorite to least favorite, or put them in buckets. These are all collectively my most favorite or second ranked favorite or something like that. Depends on the program. And then there's a process of matching that happens by each of the clinic programs, so the CS math program and the engineering program separately, to find that good fittedness of students with different project teams. Once students are assigned to teams of 4 to 6 students, that's their team for the academic year for the seniors, and then juniors in the engineering program rotate on and off in the different semesters. Each team has, that dedicated faculty advisor and at least one liaison from the sponsoring organization. Many of the sponsors have multiple liaisons engaged. Part of it's redundancy in case someone has some time off. Sometimes it's bringing in some expertise in areas that the core liaison doesn't have. So it just kind of depends on the goals of the project and the excitement of various folks to connect with students. And many folks identify the weekly meeting that they have with the students as being the brightest spot of their week because it's just such a huge shift from their routine work and the other meetings that they have with their colleagues throughout the week. Beyond, for the students, beyond doing the technical work of the project, there's also a number of other pieces of the project related to professional communication, so written reports, presentations, design reviews, poster sessions, and then site visits, visiting the liaison or sites of interest to collect data, give presentations, and other features like that. So Clinic is a capstone course, so it's part of their academic program, and students get to work in all different kinds of spaces, assigned offices, workshops, labs, the makerspace, different areas on campus. So it's an unusual kind of course in that it's very self-directed by the students, so they are held accountable by the faculty advisor and the liaisons who care about students' development of those deliverables, but the students have a lot of autonomy to choose the path and how they're going to assemble their minds together to create that final deliverable. So it's weird, but it's still definitely a course. And so the way we think about it is we advise students around what time is associated with the credit loads. That looks like about 10 hours per week per person on average. Many teams end up spending more than that because they just get really excited about the work that they're doing. Students are mentored in technical development and their professional practice. So not just how to be an engineer or how to be a mathematician or a computer scientist, but also how to be a professional in the space, how to run a meeting, how to communicate across disciplines, and how to lead well. One thing that's important is, as many things that I'm sure those of you who have talked with your students through their courses, so much of what they're experiencing in the moment is very challenging and difficult in the moment, but when you reflect back, it's very valuable for the outcomes you get out of that. Oftentimes, Clinic is that way for students too, and alumni that we speak with about the program often cite Clinic as being the most transformative experience of their undergraduate career because they got to take the knowledge set and tools from their disciplines, use it to solve a real problem, and learn how to communicate in the workspace. And they often notice that when they get into their careers as, first year engineers, staff scientists, whatever, that they're able to communicate and lead and run things well in a way that their colleagues from other organizations can do the technical work, but feel really uncomfortable in those professional spaces. So it really helps Mudders get a leg up in terms of their demonstrated ability and leadership once they graduate. For folks who might be thinking about sponsoring a project or who know someone who might be, we start really talking to sponsors, throughout the year, but in earnest, starting at the beginning of the calendar year. So in the winter, meeting with different potential partners across industries to come up with those different projects. We kind of figure out what those are together in collaboration with the clinic directors or with faculty across the departments, get some of those business agreements finalized, and then release the project statements to students for review, like we've mentioned before. There's a couple bookends on the academic side of the clinic program. The first one is launch day. And so this is some example dates from this last academic year, or this current academic year that we're in, rather. It's a day where we invite sponsors to join, typically over Zoom, to meet with teams on the first week of classes, to go over the project, what it is, what their goals are, to get to know each other and start to establish that working relationship. And it's a day of a lot of excitement. And then at the very end of the year, coming up on May 6th this year, we have Projects Day, which is like a mini conference, and students present their work through podium presentations and poster presentations. And it really is a fun day of celebration. Seniors are excited to graduate, and students are really excited to share the culmination of their work through the clinic program throughout the academic year. So as we've alluded to, Clinic really is transformative for students. They really do develop strong technical skills, professional skills, how to engage with people, how to lead meetings, how to lead others, how to manage projects. For students, it's also a really great item to put on their resumes. So instead of saying they did thesis or some standalone toy project, they got to say they partnered with, fill in the blank, whatever organization they worked with through Clinic, and be specific about the technical outcomes that they created and how they're being deployed in the real world. And lastly, they really do get enjoyment out of it because it is the first stage of professional practice and practice doing leading a project, which it looks really different than an internship. I am biased. I'm the engineering clinic director, so I've got some things to share with you specific to the engineering program. So this year, we're actively soliciting projects for our next year cycle, so for the 2025-2026 academic year. And we've polled students about different disciplines of interest to them, ones that they might like to see represented in the engineering clinic program. And so we'd see things from aerospace to energy and climate and sustainability, electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, signals and systems types of work. And so our students, we're an interdisciplinary program in engineering. They have a wide range of interests. And so we try to curate a portfolio that really matches that general engineering approach, while also paying attention to areas that our students might be particularly excited about. And then beyond the specific disciplinary focus, our students really are excited about hands-on projects. And so you'll see the three leaders and the types of work that students might engage in are all developing a concept and taking it to prototype, taking a prototype and bringing it on to implementation, or doing something in the space of research and development. Certainly, they have interests outside of that are analytical, computational, or software focused, but really our students, at least in engineering, are very focused on building things, creating things, testing things, and creating new features through research and development. And then the last thing we'll share is Clinic's been going on for a long time now, 62 years, I believe. So this is a screenshot from a couple years ago. We've had piles of sponsors and successful projects. And really the most exciting thing about it is seeing students at the end of the year just really marvel at the things that they've gotten to accomplish through the engineering clinic program. And with that, I'll go ahead and stop our sharing, and I think we can transition over to some questions.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. So someone asked in our Q&A about joint majors and whether clinic is mandatory or optional for them. There specifically is computer science physics. Is that mandatory or optional? But I think talking about some of the other cross joint majors, what is their final project?
Yeah, so for the majors that we listed on the slide, certainly required for folks who are squarely engineering or computer science. Folks in joint majors, my current knowledge, and it might be dated now because we keep adding joint majors over time, so feel free to correct me on this later. My understanding is that they can opt into it. So in the same way that a pure physics major could choose to do clinic or choose to do a thesis, someone like a math climate major, for example, may have the option to participate in clinic, but thesis would be the default option.
And then Colleen noted that if it's like a CS physics, that would be, because it's attached to computer science, it would require clinic as their senior capstone.
Yes, if they're joint computer science, physics, computer science, climate, they are probably one of our biggest cohorts is joint CS and math, and they are required to do clinic.
Great. Someone just asked in the chat, with the final presentations, the clinic presentations in early May, can parents attend? And what kind of ability is there for parents to participate in?
Colleen, you want to hit this one?
Sure. Parents are welcome to attend. It's actually a great thing to do to find out more about what your student has spent the full year doing. And there's really nothing, so Project Stay is a full day of events. It's kind of a mini conference. You can see your students' team present, you can see other teams present. There's a poster session. So it's really an opportunity to go a little deeper into not just your students' experience, but the whole clinic the whole clinic experience at Harvey Mudd. And we love for parents to come.
And it's pretty funny watching students who are, in a suit jacket giving a formal presentation and then get really embarrassed when one of their parents comes up and it's just like, "You're amazing and wonderful. And that was great. I can't believe it." So, fulfilling multiple roles at the same time is a pretty cute and fun thing to watch.
It is fun. Be aware, it does not align perfectly with commencement. So it is
does
like
not.
almost 2 weeks before commencement. So if you are able to come, that is great, but there is like a long stretch before commencement if your student is a senior. I've got some pre-submitted questions I'm going to pull from, but please continue to ask questions in our Q&A families. Are there any prerequisite courses before you take clinic in any of the programs?
Yeah, so clinic is the capstone course. So as long as you have the appropriate standing in the major, you are set up well to do clinic. So for folks in like the CS math program, as long as they're seniors wrapping up their 2 final semesters, they have the prerequisites through that program. For engineers, as long as they have junior standing for the first semester of clinic during their junior year, they're good to go. So those prerequisites are junior standing in Engineering 80, which is a course that engineering majors take during their sophomore year. And then after that, for their senior year, senior standing in the major, and they're good to go.
Great. Someone just asked to kind of explain the junior year thing. I think this does kind of get a little confusing for families. So they only participate in 1 semester of clinic, but is that project actually completed in a semester?
Yeah, so projects run a full academic year. So from September in the fall semester to May in the spring semester. The seniors are on the project for the entire year, working on it from beginning to end. In engineering, those seniors are supported by a cohort of juniors who cycle on and off the project for the fall semester and the spring semester. And so our goal in the engineering program is to give them a kind of a precursor to help early on develop their professional practice beyond what they've gotten in E4, Introduction to Engineering Design and Manufacturing, and really help equip them in design and project management and the other considerations that are important for our curriculum so that when they get to their senior year, they've got a broad-based toolkit to be able to just take off with their projects successfully. Yeah, and then I see this question about what happens if someone's on a different schedule for graduation, so finishing after the fall semester due to time off or leave for whatever reason. And yeah, of course, we are used to accommodating folks on alternate schedules. And so many times folks in those cases will do a full year during what is their third to last and second to last semesters. So they're on one project for that time, depending on what that sequence is, and then participate on half a project in their last semester if they're 1 semester off cycle. And there's a few different versions of that, but for those engineering majors, it's the 3 last semesters that they're in the program.
Great. Can you sorry?
Yeah. No, I was going to say, and those types of things are sorted in collaboration between the department's clinic directors and their academic advisor, and there's no surprises there. So we just want to make sure students get the right learning opportunities at the right time. And Mudd is small enough, like we all know all the students in our programs, and so we generally know this is coming up well before the student is even concerned about it, and we have plans in place.
That kind of leads me nicely into my next question about how groups are established. They rank the projects, but is there any consideration that goes into like team dynamics and personalities?
Yeah, let me share this slide. So in general, there's lots of factors that inform student assignment to teams. So students definitely rank their projects to figure out the ones they're most excited about, the ones they're kind of medium excited about, and the ones they definitely aren't interested in. Beyond that, we collect piles of other data from the students. For example, who are people that you do not want to work with on the project? And we get lots of funny responses with funny reasons like, I'm dating person A, and therefore I really want to be on a team with them. I would generally try to avoid that. Or I'm dating person B, and I definitely don't want to be on a team with them. It's like, great, good idea. Sometimes students list people with whom they've had conflicts in past classes, folks with whom they're roommates and they, can't imagine spending like work time with them outside of their housing situation. So it really is unconstrained in terms of something like that, like who they wouldn't want to work with. There's kind of a free fill in the blank, like tell us about anything you want to tell us about your preferences and goals and whatever. Um, Outside of that, there's some checking on data from the registrar to make sure they have the right knowledge base for different projects and things. Of course, in the engineering major, it's a general major, so all students are equally well equipped. But if we see that there's a big disposition towards one subdiscipline or the other, we take that into consideration. And then it really is this back and forth between linear optimization problem in terms of matching their preferences with project needs, and then thinking about the human approaches. Just like I mentioned, for folks who might be graduating off cycle, we know the students and are prepared to support them. And here, we all teach the students in our classes. A lot of our curriculum is team-based and collaborative. It's the culture of MUD. And so we know things about different student skill sets, abilities, knowledge bases, leadership potential, things like that. And so it's this back and forth between kind of this algorithmic approach and this very human, we know the students, and kind of getting the best fit for all the students involved in the program.
Super great. This is another previous question we've gotten in the past. It's kind of about the faculty involvement with the group.
Yeah.
And then like if it's a course, how do grades actually work for that kind of course?
Yeah, so there's different models to grading. I can speak specifically to things that happen in the engineering department. So the typical type of grading is you're assessed on, did you complete the full set of technical deliverables to the sponsor's satisfaction and the faculty advisor's satisfaction? And generally that's easy to determine. Of course, there's always things like scope creep, or maybe there's a liaison who might be difficult to work with for some reason, and those things are taken into consideration. Excuse me. But the faculty advisor is, really the filter for that, and the sole person who's assigning the grade. So one, are deliverables completed to satisfaction of the folks involved? Is the team appropriately taking care of their project management, their presentations, documentation, things like that? Are they leading the project in such a way that there's no real scare that it won't get done? So, is the team doing nothing, 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 and then the day before projects day, it's just like an all-nighter?
That would never happen, Stephen. I don't know what you're
project in a year.
talking about. That would never happen.
Yes, not advisable, that's for sure. And so, really, are you doing the work you need to do to be able to develop technical work as a professional and lead a project well? And if you're doing those things, then that's a basis for a good grade. And if you're not, then that's not. Yeah, I think that's the kind of basic structure of it.
Great. I'll leave it open for questions. We've run out of pre-submitted questions and submitted questions in the thing. So parents, now's your chance, or we're gonna cut this one short to give you back some time in your evening. But maybe you can talk a little bit about team leaders and how those are established on a clinic team.
Yeah, so both programs have team leaders or project managers. So that's a dedicated student who is the person who's leading the team. Again, there's different approaches there. Students generally indicate their interest in being the team leader or the project manager. And generally, that's a faculty appointed position, and different faculty take different approaches to choosing students for those roles. Some faculty members encourage every senior on the team to, put their name in the hat to be considered, and have the students write a small statement of purpose or cover letter or application to say, this is what I want to lead and how I want to do it and why it should be me. And then they'll interview those candidates and then assign them either for the whole year or one semester. Sometimes there's only one student on a team who really wants to be team leader, and that's another factor that gets considered when teaming groups of students. And so there's a big range for that, but generally that student is in charge of really like helping build the structure for what project management looks like, and making sure the team is on schedule to do the things they need to do. And there's a big challenge there, because it will be students oftentimes first time leading a team, an independent work. And so them trying to figure out, how do I hold high expectations? How do I support the people on my team? How do I make sure things get done? How do I take care of interpersonal conflict? How do I serve as a liaison between liaisons and the team, or students and the faculty advisor? Excuse me. There's a lot of different roles that those students play.
Yeah, I think the team leader is one of the more, is like part of the transformational part of being on a clinic team. And some teams, no one wanted to be leader, but someone would be leader if no one else wanted to be leader, so they become leader. That's just how it rolls sometimes.
That does happen sometimes.
Yeah.
Like during the years immediately following shutdowns and COVID, there was a very low number of students who expressed interest in being team lead. And I think that's because everyone was really recovering from a difficult time.
Yeah.
Now I'd say it's recovered to pre-pandemic levels of students expressing interest in being team lead. And I think it's a good signal of folks being readjusted to a more normal life.
It is a great experience being a team leader and just making an agenda for every meeting. It's part of the process of making it a real project. Oh, someone is asking, what have been some of the most notable or slash successful clinic projects? Colleen, maybe you have a history of knowledge of cool projects.
Gosh, it's always there's so many of them that I always end up coming up blank. But this year, this is a different project, but they just presented yesterday, so it's sort of top of mind for me. We have a team of students. We didn't talk about our global clinic program, and we do every year have usually at least one, sometimes several projects that are international. They're working with a sponsor who is based internationally. They're working across time zones to get the project done. And they do have the option of traveling internationally. So that can be exciting. And this year this is the second year we've worked with this university. There's a university in Uganda called Musizi University that is new. And we have, especially one of our faculty, but two clinic teams now have partnered with this Ugandan university to develop their computer science curriculum. So very different outcome than a lot of projects, but one that apparently the students have really enjoyed. They had a great site visit, which was quite something to plan. And we have amazing photos of our students interacting with students in Uganda, trying to test their curriculum. So that one was very exciting. That was definitely a little bit different. Stephen, you want to talk about a project?
Sure. So we have one continuing sponsor who's been a sponsor for this year and last year, Trilo Bio, which is a startup organization that's looking to develop a robotic system to somewhat automate biological experience with the goal of increasing reproducibility in scientific results. And they have a number of interesting technologies that they are trying to integrate into their devices that are technically challenging. And similar versions of these things exist in different platforms, but are insanely expensive. And so they're trying to democratize this effort and make it much cheaper for folks to be able to have advanced tools to support biological research. And we have a team who's doing a lot of great work that now that I brought this up, I realize I can't talk about a lot of the wonderful specifics that they're doing, but really, really developing clever solutions in a space that historically there haven't been any in. And the team last year, their work just got submitted in a patent application, and the team working on the project this year is preparing materials that are very likely to be patented as well. So that's a really, really fun one because it's very impactful work, a cool startup that's a great set of mentors for the students, and really fantastic outcomes from the work of students from last year and the team this year.
Great. I've also shared two resources in the chat. On the clinic website, there is a full listing of all past clinic projects since 2001. If you ever want to look through, kind of read the types of descriptions of projects that have been done and completed. And then there's also in the clinic website success stories. So like more deep, like project details and outcomes from some of our fun projects. Even some from the COVID years, which was really fun that clinic maintained during stay-at-home precautions. Well, I think we're out of questions. So thank you so much to Stephen and Colleen for joining us this evening. And thank you to our audience for being here and asking your questions. Our family focus events continue with our final 2 focus coming up soon. So within the next 23 hours, we'll have our next session on career services and summer research. And then in about a week and a half, have our final session for our parents of graduating seniors, focusing on all our final commencement details. All our events are listed on our Family Focus website, which is easily accessed from our parents' website, hmc.edu/parents. So thanks again for all joining us. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye, everyone.